As we mentioned, it is, the peak, the tail end of the 11th hour, quite literally, of tax season. And in the same way, people probably don't say, I want to lose money in the markets and I want to worry about it. People probably don't very often say, I'd be okay with paying more taxes. But that did actually happen in a recent retirement survey by AARP. It found that 85% of the people they asked said they would actually be okay with taxes going up if it meant that they could save Social Security from having to cut benefits. We've talked before about the looming deadline with Social Security. I don't want to focus on that so much, but I do want to talk about taxes. People saying I'd be okay with paying taxes now for a benefit down the line. When you guys talk about IRA to Roth conversions, I mean, that is essentially what you're saying, paying taxes now to help avoid having to pay taxes with whatever the rate may be in the future. How does that message usually go? How is that received? And does it take convincing on your end to help the clients moving forward?
So I think initially, when I show people, when we put together the initial comprehensive financial plan, we'll look at what your tax bill is without doing tax planning. Your lifetime tax bill, again, basically over that 25 to 30 years, what that looks like. And then we look at, well, what if we were to become more tax efficient now? We do Roth conversions. We maybe utilize some cash value life insurance of some aspect of that. And then we look at, well, what would your lifetime tax bill be if we did some tax planning? And for most people, not all people, but for most people, clients with, $500,000 plus or more saved for retirement, we could save them close to $500,000 to $1.5 million in taxes over their lifetime, which is a huge number. And I know you always hear us talk about, people are worried about the market going down, but what about paying 20 to 30% tax, especially living here in Maryland? Maryland state tax is high. If people want to stay in Maryland, they don't want to move to a more tax efficient state. It's how can we plan now so that we can save tax dollars later? And when we initially show them, they're like, wow, I could save $1 million in taxes or $500,000 in taxes. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. And then when we fine tune the number closer to the end of the year, that's where it kind of requires some more convincing, because we're like, okay, Joe and Carol, we can save you, if we convert now, we can convert 130,000. That's going to put you at the top of the 24% tax bracket, but that's going to cost you, $38,000 in taxes between the Fed and the state. And then they look at you like, well, where's that money coming from? Even though we've had the conversation before, I think it's just the initial sticker shock of the actual dollar amount that you're actually front loading the tax bill. But that's the beauty of front loading the tax bill, is you're paying those higher tax rates over the next 5-10 years. Then that way, when you're in retirement, you're in the lowest tax bracket possible. And then that way you don't care about what tax rates are going to be in the future.
I think also a really big, I don't want to say selling point, but convincing point is the legacy portion of Roth conversions. Because we, like Catherine was saying, when we're showing the financial plan delivery, we'll show, okay, this is how much you save. But then we also take it a step further and we show, okay, well, when you die, what does the taxes look like for your heirs? This is what it's going to be in the base case scenario with no tax strategies. But if we do implement these strategies, this is the amount that your heirs will save. So I know that's really dependent upon if they have a legacy plan, but we do have a ton of clients that have children, have aunts, uncles, neighbors that they want to give to. And that does have a huge effect on the amount of taxes that your heirs will have to pay.
Mm-hmm. Especially because most of us inherit our parents' money when we're in our highest earning years of our lifetime.
Right.
And so due to the Secure Act and the way that they've changed how non-spouse beneficiaries inherit IRA money, now you have to take out all that money over 10 years. It used to be that you could do what's called a stretch IRA or inherited IRA, where you could spread that tax bill out over your lifetime. Well, they've basically shortened the runway on that to 10 years from date of death. So at this point, anyone who has parents that passed away and they have sizable IRA accounts, which most of them do, because most people saved in IRAs, that generation that we work with now, they saved and saved and saved in IRAs, then their kids are going to be on the hook for that tax bill within a 10-year window while they're making the highest salaries they've ever earned.
The government thought it through.
They thought it through for sure. But I almost say that they presented it as, oh, we're delaying your RMD from 70 and a half to 72. And everyone's like, oh, that's great. But
that was the big selling point.
Yeah,
right.
We're going to sell it, but we're going to hose your kids. Yeah. But nobody cares about that. I mean, no, they do. Some people do.
Yeah.
we have some clients that say, I don't care if my kids pay tax on this money.
Let's spend everything.
Let's spend everything. Or, I don't care if they pay tax, they're inheriting all this money and nobody gave me money, in retirement. I didn't inherit money from my parents. So it's more of a per household decision, whether it's important or not. But like Sam said, we can usually save $500,000 at $1.5 million over your lifetime for yourself. But then you add on the tax savings for your kids, that could be another $1 million to $2 million there. So we're talking about $2 to $3 million plus in tax savings with proper tax planning.
People are very quick to hear the end result. They say Roth conversions, tax-free growth down the line. That is fantastic. That's what I want. But again, you do have to pay the taxes now. And so writing that check may be something they don't really think about, or they may want to try to convert the entirety of their portfolio. I've got $1 million. Let's do it. Well, there are tax implications there. And that is going to be, I dare say, probably counterintuitive to what you are trying to achieve. The tax code is tricky and complicated, and perhaps by design. Fair credit where credit is due, with the Secure Act, as we mentioned a minute ago, the big talking point for Secure Act 1.0, hey, the RMD age is going to go up. You don't have to take that money for longer. Elimination of the stretch IRA, we are going to get that money one way or another. There are things that we know and things that we hope for, and we hope that the balances that we have now will grow over time. We hope that they will be bigger, in the future. We also know taxes almost certainly at some point have to go up. They have to increase in the future. So, would you rather pay a smaller amount, pay lower taxes now on a smaller balance, or would you rather pay whatever the tax rates are going to be on a future balance? It is the question of the seed versus the harvest.
Mm-hmm.
But
and I get this question a lot too with even my younger with clients in their mid to late 40s. They're not quite in retirement age, and I suggest, okay, well, it may not make sense to do. Well, we can't do Roth conversions now because all your money is in your 401k and we can't get it out, right, or something like that. But then I suggest, okay, well, instead of making pre-tax contributions to your TSP or your 401k, let's start making Roth contributions. And they look at me and they say, well, if I'm maxing out and I'm doing all Roth, then I'm going to pay. That's $30,000, more in tax, or, that I'm going to have, or 30,000 more in income that I'm going to have to pay tax on. And then I'm going to be in a higher tax bracket. So it's really kind of training them to see that whole seed versus the harvest conversation, because yes, you're going to pay more taxes now, but your paycheck's going to go down by a couple $100. Yeah. But in the long run, that runway of 25 to 30 years in retirement, that's when you're really going to reap the benefits of doing the Roth contributions now while you're in the accumulation phase, and then also doing the Roth conversions as you're getting closer to the retirement stage, because we are in the lowest tax brackets in history during our lifetime,
right?
For sure. And like you said, it's a great place to be when you don't care what the tax legislation is going to be. And that's what we try to aim for is, putting you in that better tax efficient place so that you don't care what tax legislation does in the future. So if you want to do what the wealthy do, have a plan, reduce taxes, go to the savvyinvestorradio.com and click on the tax strategy button, where we will run that analysis for you to look at your lifetime tax bill. We'll look at, how Roth contributions would change your income now and how it would affect your retirement income in the future. Again, that's 866-597-1040. Again, 866-597-1040.